we should be live. Let me just double check. See if I'm showing up. Yep, okay. All right, everybody, we're starting things off with some more film ranking. Our music today is lent from the 1922 classic horror film Haksan, a pseudo-documentary that claims to be about the history of witches and witchcraft. It's a little loud. Yeah, this is a lovely film. It's a fascinating, kind of beautiful little movie from the 20s, and it's on the Criterion Collection. As with the other day, I'm also drinking a Coke Zero again because it felt like a nice thing to do. Pardon me while I take a sip. So you may hear that throughout the stream. And I am, we're going to continue with our little film rank before we hop into Resident Evil 4 to do chapter 4. So we're starting with Needful Things. I can't say I know what this is, so we're going to throw it probably in neutral. It doesn't look, it doesn't strike me as all that interesting, but New Mutants. I have heard this film is exceptionally bad. I'm kind of curious about it. Not because I think it's going to be good, but I want to know what about it will be bad when the time comes. I'll probably check it out. So, New Mutants, for those who aren't familiar, is it was a relatively positively received comic book run in the 80s. And it got this little known, little attended to film adaptation. I'm gonna say late 2010s, maybe kind of overlapping with the pandemic. I can't really recall. But it just got completely buried. It was supposed to be an exceptionally bad film, and it intentionally got kind of buried. And I'm not positive. I don't remember much about it. I don't remember it super well, but I believe that the woman who plays Arya Stark in Game of Thrones, I think, is in it, and like at the time of that casting, that was like a bigger deal. And then between the film getting delayed and like production issues, like the appeal of like a Game of Thrones person being in a film like rapidly declined. I think that's the case. I might be misremembering, but that's kind of my notion of what that film is. Night Flyer is one I know that I've seen. I don't remember at all. It's another Stephen King adaptation. I'll throw that in. Needs a rewatch. I do like this poster. That's some the tantalizing looking VHS cover if ever I've seen one. Night House, I don't know anything about. Okay looking poster. We'll throw that in the middle of haven't seen neutral. Night of the Living Dead, of course, one of the absolute OGs, one of the absolute most important classic films. Invented zombies as we understand them in movies in general. I am going to put it in outstanding. Some people think that it hasn't aged well. I kind of disagree. I actually think it's like quite a compelling film, even by contemporary standards. And like comparing it to stuff that came out in the years that followed it still feels so much more competent and so much more together and so much more functional as a narrative than so many other films for so long. And like in the span of time between Night of the Living Dead in 1968 and Dawn of the Dead in 1978, there were a lot of Night of the Living Dead imitators. Like there was a whole wave of zombie films immediately influenced by Night of the Living Dead. and maybe it's because they're knockoffs that they're not good, but like I don't want to say that they're not good, but it's just like, again, there is a certain kind of like incompetence to them that you look at something from like the mid 70s and compare it to Night of the Living Dead, and even with all the extra years of film theory, they really can't stick the landing. Just earlier today, actually, I was watching one from 1974 called "The Living Dead at Manchester Morgue," also known as "Let Sleeping Corpses Lie," also known as "Don't Go to the Window." I think it's "Don't Go to the Window." There's like it went like a ton of zombie movies infamously have like gone under a ton of different names, but it is actually a good movie. I actually quite like it. I think it's like one of the better films of that interstitial period between Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. But like it is so struggling to cohere and have like a reasonable narrative, and like it doesn't know what to do with. It doesn't know how to like create peril. It doesn't understand how to like escalate in any meaningful sense. It doesn't do anything to kind of isolate the figures in any way that would necessitate them being trapped by the zombies. And like it, there's many reasons why I actually do like that movie. I think it's like, again, I think it's one of the better ones of that interstitial period. But like, you look back at Night, and I think it's like Night is better than any zombie movie that came out until Dawn of the Dead. I think like I would have to like double check, but I don't know if anything that came after it was better than it until Romero himself like outdid himself with Dawn. The first act is a little bit sluggish, but like once everybody comes up from the basement, I think that the film is like it's like firing on all cylinders, and I think that like from that point through to the end of the film, it is just like a good zombie movie, even by like modern standards. Now we have the whole line of Nightmare on Elm Street films. I have never been quite as big a Nightmare on Elm Street fan as has been the case for... I was always more of a Friday the 13th person. Actually, to this day, I don't particularly care about Freddy. Like, I actually don't like him that much as a villain. My favorite of these films, I think, actually probably is Freddy versus Jason. Like, I do think that is like better. That might be better than any of the Nightmare on Elm Street films. I don't think that they're like altogether incompetent or anything. I would say that like the first few are actually quite good. I think that the first Nightmare on Elm Street is kind of on the low end of actually good. The second one I think is even better. The first three are really kind of like the like prime time for the series. I'm gonna probably put number 2 higher up in this zone. Like I'll have it hanging out with Friday the 13th Final Chapter, Freddy vs. Jason. It's a good one. Number 3, which I believe is the one that's subtitled Dream Warriors. Also good. It's also kind of like in the same way that like the Friday the 13th films took a minute. I'll put this down here as well, but in the way that the Friday the 13th movies also took a minute for them to like kind of establish what the franchise was, 3 is kind of like when it really like stabilizes, where Friday the 13th famously or infamously, right, you have Jason isn't even in the first one. He shows up in the second. It's only the third that he actually gets the hockey mask. Something is kind of similar going on in Nightmare on Elm Street. Not exactly, but it's like it is always Freddy, but I think one of his signature things, which is his like sarcasm and his like quippiness and whatever, doesn't really fully gestate until number 3. So like if you're curious ever at any point, like why is Freddy an icon, it's like look at number 3 specifically. 4, 5, 6, I honestly don't remember like basically at all. I might put them all in the rewatch section, and like I don't remember them being particularly good. I think that these are, most people would agree, this is when it kind of like went off the rails. But I don't want to like commit to giving them like too specific a placement in this, just because I am less familiar with what these were doing. I will give a more positive review to New Nightmare. So New Nightmare was a more of an interesting exercise in it turns itself into like a meta film thing. Like it's like a meditation on like the history of the franchise, and also like addresses horror filmmaking as a whole and like the slasher boom. Like a lot of the ideas that it's playing with of like deliberately invoking and also rejecting the like themes of horror is also something Wes Craven is going to go on to do with the Scream films, which I'm sure are on here. Yeah, so we have the Screams. New Nightmare has problems, but I actually think it's either somewhere in the actually good section, or at minimum I think in the maybe worth seeing section, just because it's like it is interesting. At minimum it is interesting, whether or not it's good. This is the reboot. I've never seen the reboot. I guess I probably should. I'm not even... I never prioritized it because I don't particularly care about this franchise as much as I like some of the other slasher franchises, as we've discussed. But I honestly think some of the slasher reboots aren't nearly as bad as people have a tendency to say that they are. As I said, I actually think that the Friday the 13th reboot remake is actually reasonably competent. I think it's okay. I mean, when we get down to it, I think the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot from the early 2000s is okay. I imagine this might also be okay, but I actually don't remember what its reception was at the time. Nosferatu, the original from 1922. We've obviously been listening to the music. I like Nosferatu a lot. I'm probably gonna... I'm not 100% sure about this. I might just put it in the maybe worth seeing section. So I think that like... So the complication with Nosferatu that I will say is that like if you don't know or you don't like... The degree to which you are able to enjoy it, I think, is partly dependent on like to what degree you enjoy silent films, or like films of the 20s and even early 30s. It's just so fundamentally a different mindset in terms of how they are being made, and what kind of storytelling is happening. I think it's a cool movie. It will probably not engage most people. I'm going to put it in the maybe worth seeing because I do think it's worth seeing for its like historic... Its place in history is important. I will say, I think like conventionally speaking, most people won't enjoy watching it like as an exercise in film unto itself. We could also throw into this list, there's the 70s Werner Herzog Nosferatu, as well as the, I think, 2024 Dave Eggers Nosferatu. The 70s Nosferatu by Werner Herzog. I'm inclined to put into the actually good section. Has Klaus Kinski, of course, as the titular vampire, and is quite a good film, I think. I would actually put the Dave Eggers 2024 version maybe in outstanding. It would either be very high and actually good, or kind of on the lower end of outstanding. It's I also never reordered these after I started adding additional. I'll throw Jaws pretty high up there. We'll throw Midsummer up there. Hereditary somewhere in the top row. Misery's probably higher. Night of the Living Dead, I don't know how to place. But yeah, the Dave Eggers one, I think is an outstanding film. It does a pretty good job modernizing it, and it's still incredibly faithful to the original. But it's like gripping, incredible atmosphere, incredible performances across the board. Number 23 is one I probably need to rewatch. I remember seeing this when it came out, and there was a lot of phenomena about it. It wasn't totally viral, totally mimetic, but it was a little bit. There was a little bit of attention around it. And it's kind of been wiped from my mind subsequently. It's one of these weird things. It's one of these weird movies that, like, I don't want to use the term prestige for fear of confusing this kind of prestige versus prestige of the, like, Get Out, Hereditary, Midsummer moment in the 2010s. But there was this thing in the 90s and early 2000s of these kind of, in their own way, their own context, prestige horror films of the 90s and early 2000s, where like major mainstream actors and major mainstream directors were trying their hand at like a more serious kind of horror. And a lot of these films don't really hold up that well, I don't think. Like, a lot of them are pretty bad, like Lost Souls, which has Winona Ryder and was directed by Janosz, I forget what his last name is. It's Spielberg's cinematographer or director of photography. He did that. What Lies Beneath is part of this category. What Lies Beneath, I think, is probably like the best case example of like one of these being handled properly or something. But I think number 23 kind of falls into the same category. 1408 kind of falls into this category. Serious kind of like, we're going to make a horror movie and it's going to be like a good movie and a drama of the 90s and 2000s, I think is like, I think it's less sophisticated and maybe a little bit more cynical than how it ended up being executed when, again, we get the 2010s thing with Get Out and Hereditary. But it's an interesting moment in the history of horror, and it's something that I need to think back upon a little bit more, if only because like I talk frequently with people about how like the 2000s were kind of like a dearth in horror films. Like the 2000s, it's not like a wasteland. Like there were good horror movies like The Descent, like. But I do think the 2000s were like a pretty bad time for horror, like late 90s into, I'm going to say like 95 through maybe about 2010 was like a pretty weak era for horror. Like looking at our top two categories here, 28 Days Later is from that zone. Descent is from that zone. But a lot of the framework around how they are discussed is that like they're like films that like broke that trend. 13 Ghosts was not a particularly well-liked film when it came out, so I don't know to what degree you could say it broke that trend. Behind the Mask was a horror comedy, which I do think is different. Cabin in the Woods was maybe on the early end of the comeback in the 2010s that like brought some gravitas to the genre again. Evil Dead remake is kind of again on the early end of the comeback in the 2010s. Hills Have Eyes I expressed complications about, but My Bloody Valentine remake I think was early 2010s. I might be wrong about that. That might be like 2008, 2009, but like that 2000s period is like one of the weakest periods in horror, and I think that like I don't want to blame it on the prestige films like we're talking about, like number 23 and whatever, but I do feel that like there was some weird delineation that like still isn't totally resolved in terms of how people were talking about like horror tinged drama versus thrillers versus like there were some thrillers that I think were there were some thrillers that I think weren't really thrillers. I think they were horror movies, but they like called themselves thrillers because they were trying to like escape the baggage that horror has as a genre. I think in general there is like the difference between horror and thriller sometimes is like a marketing segment thing more so than it is like an actual mechanics of storytelling. We could go on about this forever, so I sorry, I shouldn't like derail. Oculus, I don't know what this is. It looks to me like some James Wan Blumhouse slop, so I'm gonna dodge that. Odd Thomas is one I am almost certain I've seen and I do not remember at all, so I'm gonna throw that in the needs a rewatch. Old by M. Night Shyamalan, I do think is just actually bad. I think I talked about this maybe right at the end of the original session that we did. Old is it's a little bit of like a Twilight Zone episode. It's kind of a Twilight Zone episode. It's I don't know. I think it has like the idea present is like kind of interesting, but it's almost moving like it's like so confident in its own idea that like I think it almost like fails to justify itself because it feels so confident that it is a self-evidently good notion for a story. I also don't know if I would really call it a horror film. I guess it kind of is. Like, I guess you could say that it is body horror in its own way, but I won't belabor it. I didn't think it was a very good movie. I think it has the bones or the potential to have been a good movie. And I hate saying it because, again, I'm like the Shyamalan defender, or I say to myself I'm a Shyamalan defender, even though like I keep criticizing him during this list. We have The Happening right here, for example. But Old, it's not so bad to be Please Don't, but I could maybe even bump it up to probably not rather than actually bad. But yeah, I don't know. I think, like I said, I think it's like it is almost too confident in the self-evidence of its like validity as a story. Old Man, I don't know what this is, so we'll throw that in haven't seen. Neutral. The original The Omen. I think it's kind of maybe worth seeing. I think I don't love it. It's one of many kind of I think its aesthetics are kind of interesting. I think that it's like a good example of this like 70s cinema look of horror. I don't think it's a great film, but it's fine. I never saw The Omen 2, and there's a bunch more Omens, so I'm a little bit surprised. We only have 2 listed here. I'm pretty sure there's also a reboot. I don't think I'm really interested in The Omen 2, but I'll throw it in neutral because it's fine one way or the other. Open House, I have no idea what it is, but it's Netflix and it's got a horrible poster, so we're just going to throw that in not interested. Open Water. Open Water I've never seen. I maybe kind of want to. We've talked a little bit about thalassophobia movies, and like I'm not particularly interested in Open Water, but like the fact that it's not leaning on shark gore, it's not leaning on just ocean depths. It is leaning on like a realistically horrifying scenario of like, what if a boat leaves you behind and you're just in the middle of the ocean in open water, is like more effectively scary in how normal the notion is than it would be if it were just like another shark film otherwise. Orphan. I think this one was one of those Del Toro's. I think Del Toro did this. I'm going to put it probably in the probably not section. I think it was reasonably well liked when it came out. I saw it in theaters. I haven't thought about it very much since I saw it in theaters. I guess I could maybe throw it in the maybe needs a rewatch section. Creepy kid horror. I mean, we just talked about The Omen, of course. Creepy kid horror is kind of easy and kind of lazy, and Orphan has like a decent twist in it. That's a little bit stupid, but it's like audacious enough that I'm inclined to give it a little bit, like I give it a few points for that. Orphan First Kill, I imagine, is terrible, so I'm just throwing that in the bottom of uninterested. The Others. Now, this is another example of one of these 2000s prestige horror. We got a Nicole Kidman in a like serious, this is a horror movie, but it's also a drama, and like you can like stretch your acting legs kind of thing. I don't think it's outstanding. A lot of people would throw it in the outstanding section. It is actually good though, and it is like, I'm willing to put it somewhere in the top of actually good. It is a good movie. I think it's worth watching, and it's like you don't have to be like a horror, you know. I guess kind of the part of the goal of these prestige early 2000s like drama horrors is that like you don't have to be a horror fan to be interested in seeing these films. That's kind of, I think that was part of the goal of them also, but I think it works. I think it's a good movie. Ouija. I think this is another James Wan kind of haunting slop movie. I'm going to throw it in neutral. I might be confusing it with something else. Pan's Labyrinth isn't a horror movie. It's a great movie, but it's not a horror movie. The sequence with the eyeless guy, I forget what he's called, is outstanding, and it is quite spooky, but Pan's Labyrinth is not a horror movie at all. It should not be on this list. Paranormal Activity, the very first one I've never seen. I hear it's actually pretty good, so that's like one of my biggest of everything that we currently have in the haven't seen want to list. This is probably the most notable like gap in my knowledge of like, oh yeah, this is a movie I should have seen. Paranormal Activity Next of Kin, I don't particularly care about. I guess if I really like the first one, then maybe this will get bumped up. I also think that there's like 6 of them now. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that it's not just 2. People Under the Stairs, I don't fully remember what's up with this movie. I don't even remember if I've seen it. I feel like I have seen it, but I don't remember it. So I'm going to throw it under rewatch. Stephen King's Pet Sematary. I hate to keep ragging on King, man, but I I actually think this is kind of a bad movie. I feel super bad about saying that, but yeah, I think it's kind of a bad one. I've not been the kindest to Stephen King. Like, of up top, we've got Creepshow, which he's involved with, but it's not really his thing. We've got Misery. Is there anything in the actually good section that's Stephen King? I guess It Chapter 1. So I guess I don't think I'm being completely unfair to him, but yeah, Pet Sematary sucks. Never seen Pet Sematary 2 and I don't care. Never seen the Pet Sematary reboot and also don't care. Don't know what Pet is, but it's an okay poster, so I'm going to throw that under neutral. Phantasm. Phantasm's dope. Phantasm's so cool, so weird. It's probably on the low end of actually good, but Phantasm's super fun. Check it out. It's really weird. It's really silly. I don't want to spoil anything about it. Go into it completely blind. Don't watch a trailer or anything. Just like get into this weirdness. I've seen some of the Phantasm sequels. I don't remember them at all. I don't even remember how many of them I saw. So I'm just going to throw these under needs a rewatch. There we go. Polaroid, I don't know anything about this. I presume it's going to be another spooky, haunting kind of movie. We'll throw it under neutral. I don't know. Poltergeist, the OG Poltergeist. Directed by Joe Dante. Is it Joe Dante? 1 second, let me Google this. First of all, I'm going to say it's either on the low end of outstanding or high end of actually good. I'm going to put it on the high end of actually good. Let me see real quick. Poltergeist. Tobe Hooper, not Joe Dante. Tobe Hooper, of course, director of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Tobe Hooper is kind of cool. I think he's actually kind of underrated. Poltergeist is a good movie, very iconic. I don't want to put it quite under outstanding, but it is very good. It's very, very good. Incredible practical effects. A couple really outstanding sequences. I think the main thing that is keeping me from putting it in outstanding is I think that it kind of loses momentum around the 2/3 mark. But Poltergeist is dope. It's a classic. I would say that, like, if you have caught up with everything from this list under personal favorites and outstanding, within the actually good section, Poltergeist is really up there with American Werewolf in London in terms of like prioritize seeing these movies. I think Cabin in the Woods is kind of up there too. Even though I myself am not in love with Cabin in the Woods, I think it's like contextually like important to see Cabin in the Woods to understand where it goes. Whereas, like, you know, the My Bloody Valentines are pretty low. Malignant is rightfully quite low. Phantasm I'd probably kick higher. Army of Darkness I would kick higher. The Others deserves to be where it is. Should be pretty high in there. Alien Resurrection, even though I personally quite like it, I think could be a lower priority as well. Yeah, I think most of these are, you know, they're all in the actually good zone. It's fine. We don't need to elaborate further. Poltergeist 2 and 3, I'm pretty sure that I've seen, but we're going to throw those in the rewatch section because I don't particularly remember them. I'm almost certain I've seen them. 3 in particular, for whatever reason, I'm almost certain I've seen, even if I'm not so sure about 2. Poltergeist reboot is very low on my list of interests. I doubt that it's good at all. Predator's not a horror movie. Predator 2 is not a horror movie. Predator, the original, outstanding film, like truly outstanding. Predator 2 is okay. Predator 1 is absolutely outstanding. Great movie. Not a horror movie at all. Not even a little bit. Like, not even... I don't think it's even, like, 1% horror movie. Like, it's really... it's weird that they put it on this list. I don't understand why it's here. Predator is also not a horror movie. The Predator, also not a horror movie. Prey, also not a horror movie. Predator Badlands, also not a horror movie. The Predator is not a horror franchise. It does not belong here. Not even like 1%. Like, really, maybe Prey is the closest it gets to being a horror franchise. And even then, I don't think it's horror. Prince of Darkness is actually good. It's either actually good or kind of on the... I'm going to put it in, I'm going to put it in the maybe worth seeing section. Prince of Darkness is cool. It's, I don't think it's worth prioritizing seeing it, but, it's cool. I think it's moody. It's got this, like, it's got some great atmosphere. I think it's a good one, but it's not, again, don't prioritize it. Prom Night, I don't think I've ever seen. We're going to throw that actually under want to see, because I've heard some people recently defend it. Prom Night 2, Hello Mary something. I can't read I think the full title's cut off. Not particularly interested, but if I see and like the first one, we'll go into it. Prom Night the remake, I have absolutely no interest in. Prometheus. Prometheus is I think again it got good reviews when it came out, and I feel like some of its reputation has been hurt, or like there's a loud number of people who quite dislike Prometheus and want to be critical of it. I think Prometheus is somewhere in the middle of actually good, though. It's a very flawed film. Famously, the characters are just kind of dumb, but in spite of its flaws, I think that Prometheus is actually good. I think it's frustrating that they couldn't have found ways to write in resolutions to the problems that hold it back as a film. But I think it is actually still a good film in spite of that. I think it's quite intense in places. I think it is intriguing and mysterious in places in a way that is rather effective. And I would also say, if you've ever read H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness, I personally think it's loosely an adaptation of At the Mountains of Madness, and it might be like the best version of that story that we ever get committed to film. Not literally, like I'm not saying it's literally intending to be an adaptation of that, but I feel like there is some amount of DNA there that helps the film, and that doesn't save the film, but starting on that's like a good foundation. It's a good foundation to be built on. We keep rolling. We got the OG Psycho. OG Psycho is I'll probably put it on the low end of outstanding. It's not one of my favorite Hitchcocks, but like it's still a pretty compelling film. It's still pretty well acted. Anthony Perkins in particular is like electric as Norman Bates. Fabulous music, some really clever shot composition stuff. I think it actually holds up quite well. I think it's like a nice movie. It's pretty tight. Everyone knows the twist. Everyone knows the shower scene. But nevertheless, I think it's actually still like a good film. I think it's pretty well put together. If I wanted to be mega critical about it, I could put it high up and actually could, but I'm willing to throw it in outstanding. It's kind of in a similar zone maybe as Poltergeist and American Werewolf in London, where it's like it's such a classic that it's probably a film you should see. I mean, that whether or not you're interested in its subject, it's like such an important film historically. It is one you should make sure you take the time to see, but I won't elaborate on it too much. Psycho 98, Gus Van Sant. A very, very hated remake. I'm probably going to say you probably don't need to see it. I don't think it's actually bad, but like the Psycho remake is an interesting case of being an interesting film to talk about without necessarily being an interesting film to watch. And the whole thing about the 1998 remake of Psycho is, if anyone's not familiar with it, the 1998 remake of Psycho is one of the most obsessively, like slavishly faithful remakes ever made. Like, it is almost like a perfect kind of like shot for shot, like every single beat made the same as the original. And it has always been my understanding that Gus Van Sant has justified this choice as being an intentional kind of like meta, it's like a meta commentary, like art house choice where he's like, I'm going to do the exact same movie almost to a degree that is kind of insulting. And that's interesting as like, I'm going to make a piece of art that is identical to a good piece of art, but it is bad. Like the resultant product is bad. And it's like an interesting thing to talk about. I think it's interesting to talk about like, what do people want out of remakes? What do people want out of adaptations? What do people want from authorial intent, from directorial intent? Like what is the gestalt of film where something can be how can you copy something that's good and copy it accurately, but in a way that ends up bad, is all really cool and interesting to think about and talk about, while not actually being an interesting movie to watch. So that's why it's going to show up in the probably not section. If you're interested in those ideas, get in there, watch it, check it out. Pulse. It looks like the poster that they selected has Italian on it. Pulse is not an Italian film. Pulse is a I can't remember if it's J-horror or if is the original Pulse J-horror, or for whatever reason I think it was Thai. Am I wrong about that? I'm gonna Google that real quick. Pulse movie. Oh, it is Japanese. Okay. What one am I thinking of that's Thai? So I think this is the poster for the American remake. I think this is an Italian poster for the American remake, which I think is maybe worth seeing. I actually don't hate the American remake of Pulse. We talked about this with Grudge a little bit. We talked about this with The Rings a little bit. I think it's nowhere near as good as the original. The original Japanese Pulse, I think, is maybe, I don't want to say it's the best J-horror, but it's like strongly in contention for it. Like, I really like the original Pulse. I guess why did I forget that it was Japanese? Am I going crazy that, like, is it based on like a Thai novel or something? Why am I thinking of Thailand when I think of Pulse? I feel like I'm going crazy. I think it's one of the best. I think that movie's amazing. I think the American remake is worse, but the basic idea is still so good that like a worse adaptation of a good story, it's funny we're following up on Psycho with this, but a worse adaptation of a still good story, it has some, still has some juice in it. I think the Pulse films are, I don't want to say that they are more relevant today, but como se dice, I think that the Pulse films will hit harder now, and I don't think that's necessarily because they're smarter or something, but Pulse is basically what if Wi-Fi was ghosts, or like what if Wi-Fi like brought ghosts into the world. That's like a gross oversimplification, but like the idea, but nevertheless, it's like I think the idea of like, here's this energy that like passes through walls and passes through physical things and is like surrounding us all the time. What if that was like a medium wearing down the veil between the realm of the living and the realm of the dead or something, is increasingly interesting and concerning in a world in which these technologies have become all the more ubiquitous. And I think the idea of electrical signals, and specifically like the invisible and intangible and kind of like impossible to understand barriers of, or like using those media, using those as vessels. You know, it's not the cursed object, it's not mirrors, it's not shadows, it's not water. These are those media that we typically associate with hauntings are physical and tangible and can be avoided or can be negotiated with logically in a way that like 5G or Bluetooth or Wi-Fi can't be. And that's like a very effective understanding. I think it's very effective to be like, if you can get a cell signal, you can get attacked and killed by a ghost, is like an increasingly disturbing notion in the modern world. Pumpkinhead is, I think, kind of in the low end of probably not. I don't particularly care for the Pumpkinhead films. I would say they are amazing VHS covers that don't work as well as something like Chud or The Stuff, or there's like other monster movies that are cooler and better than Pumpkinhead. I did just realize, by the way, that now that we hit the end line, like we moved past all the ends, we never got Night of the Comet. That's such a good movie. I'm kind of surprised that it wasn't on here. Night of the Comet's awesome. Chopping Mall isn't on here. That one is awesome. I might need to like make a separate list where I just try to like list off all the movies that aren't on here, and I don't want to go so far as to like add the posters. That would be like a little too much work for me. But there's a lot of stuff missing from here, man. Not just the obvious stuff like Romero, but like, and like a bunch of the sequels that we missed as we talked about. But yeah, no Chopping Mall, that's a bummer. No Night of the Comet is a bummer. No Night of the Demons is a bummer. Night of the Demons is awesome. The original Night of the Demons, the sequels are pretty good too, but like Night of the Demons 1 is awesome. Like I would maybe throw that up into a personal favorites section, if not outstanding. Like Night of the Demons is so good. It's so good. It's really funny, it's really silly, it's really gross, but it is also just good. I'm also like kind of scandalized looking at the R line coming up. Return of the Living Dead isn't on here. Return of the Living Dead is like one of the best horror movies ever, like period. Like it is like mega. I'm kind of shocked it's not on here, and like I get that you might not include the sequels, but like Return of the Living Dead is absolutely and would be on my personal favorite list, and like I'm like pretty shocked because it's like an iconic film and a pretty well liked film, and like it's not obscure. It's not like a lesser title, and like I don't want to be critical of the person who made this list because it's like, man, you put a lot of work into this. This is like over 500 images. Good for you. We maybe didn't need all of the fucking puppet masters. Like, we didn't need all these puppet masters. We do need Return of the Living Dead on this list. That's kind of crazy, my guy. That's not on here. First puppet master is the only puppet master I've seen. I think it's maybe worth seeing. It's fine. It's like, it's fine. It's yeah, I don't know. The Puppet Master sequels, I don't know anything about, and I am inclined to put them more neutral, but it's kind of hard to drag them all up there. So it's just they're all just gonna go over here. Sorry, Puppet Master series. There's so many of you. We didn't need 5, 6, 7, 8. We didn't need 8 of them in the list when we don't have any of the Return of the Living Deads. Return of the Living Dead 1 at minimum, but honestly, like, do all 5. Like, add all 5 to this list. I'll just, like, let's spitball Return of the Living Dead real quick. We're gonna finish up with the P's, by the way, and then we'll go to Resident Evil. But and the answer to the P's is that the Purge, the original Purge, is like, maybe you don't need to watch it. Probably not. And then I haven't seen any of the others. The Purges, I have too much weird meta commentary that I kind of want to talk about with them. For a long time, my standing opinion on the Purges was that a lot of people complained about the Purge movies, saying, oh, the Purge is such a good idea for a movie, and the movies squander it. And my response to that for a long time was, no, the Purge is a bad idea for a movie. It didn't squander it. It did the most it could with a bad idea. And I think there's still some truth to that. My opinion on them has evolved a little bit without having actually seen the series, but just like talking about like the meta commentary of like talking with people and talking about like what are the larger political implications of this franchise, what is it about, what is like being accomplished with the storytelling. And I think that my where I've started to round about on the Purge movies is it's a totally okay idea for a movie, and parts of the flaws in its storytelling do stem from flaws in the premise, but also the flaws with the premise are actually intentionally part of the story it's trying to tell. So I almost shouldn't be that critical of it, and that like it is my meta understanding that maybe I do need to see more of these sequels, is that like people will approach the idea of the Purge, and anyone who doesn't know the Purge films, the setup of the Purge is that it takes place in like a sci-fi future. America has become kind of fascist. Who could possibly believe such a thing? But they set up this idea that like once a year there's this day, or this night I should say, called Purge Night, where essentially all crime is legal from like sundown to sunup. Any and all crime is legal, and some people will look at that and be critical of that and be like, actually, before I get into this, I should say the point of the Purge existing is that it's supposed to lower crime. And like in universe, the idea is the government is like, oh, by letting people go hog wild this one day of the year, it like massively reduces crime overall and like makes people safer, and like becomes a like a pressure release valve for our social issues. And people respond to this. This is like not in universe, but like the audience are quick to respond to this and be like, that's stupid, that doesn't make sense, that's not how the world works. All this results in is like a bunch of people killing each other. And it is my understanding that the like larger meta narrative of the franchise is it's not supposed to make sense. The Purge doesn't lower crime. The idea that this thing, the idea that the senseless violence that the Purge enables is not actually beneficial whatsoever. It is essentially like a distraction technique that is like about cruelty and about fear and about control, and doesn't succeed in accomplishing anything aside from being some kind of propaganda tool, is actually the point of the series. And being critical of the stupidity of the premise is failing to engage with the purpose of like the larger story that the franchise is trying to put together, as I understand it. And that's kind of interesting to me. And this is also the kind of narrative that is true of like Battle Royale, which people love and adore. And like the story of Battle Royale doesn't make sense if you actually think about it in the same way that the Purge doesn't make sense. And this is also true of like Hunger Games. And they are like, it makes sense as a storytelling choice that this thing in the world doesn't make sense in a like logical human way, because it is not supposed to function in the way that we would understand as being like a rational choice, right? So anyway, all of that is to say, I guess I maybe should watch the Purge movies. I mean, maybe I'm talking on my ass and I'm just like responding to like, I'm like responding to responses to responses to responses. We were going to talk a little bit about the Return of the Living Dead films. Return of the Living Dead 1, directed by Dan O'Bannon in 1985. Absolutely a personal favorite. Unbelievably good film. I think the best horror comedy of all time, period. It's a zombie movie. It purports to be a sort of meta sequel to Night of the Living Dead. John Rousseau, who was the producer on the original Night of the Living Dead and maybe had a writing credit as well, he and Romero came to a deal that Romero's films would be of the dead, Russo's films would be of the living dead, which is why Return of the Living Dead is Return of the Living Dead, and Dawn of the Dead is Dawn of the Dead, not Dawn of the Living Dead. And Return of the Living Dead, the characters address the existence of the movie Night of the Living Dead, and they claim in the movie that movie itself was based on real events, and that they are in a world that is now, almost 20 years removed from the happenings that inspired the movie Night of the Living Dead. Incredibly funny movie, incredibly nihilistic, incredibly grim and silly and smart, and I rewatch it at least once a year. I think Return of the Living Dead is not just a personal favorite. It'd be pretty high into this list. Like, it might be above everything except Dawn and the Aliens films. Like, if I'm doing my rankings, I love Return of the Living Dead. It's so good. Return of the Living Dead 2, I'm inclined to maybe put into the maybe worth seeing section. A lot of people hate it. Return of the Living Dead 2 has a lot of weird vibes to it. It has this kind of comic booky framing that kind of feels like a nod to Creepshow, which doesn't make any sense. I guess Creepshow was a Romero thing, but like, why Return of the Living Dead 2 would take it on doesn't totally make sense. It does this weird, again, almost meta thing where a couple of the actors from Return of the Living Dead, whose characters die in Return of the Living Dead, show up in Return of the Living Dead 2 as new characters, and they express some kind of ambiguous deja vu cognizance of being like, oh, this reminds me of something. Like, hasn't this happened before? In a way that's really, really weird. There's like a child protagonist that isn't a very good actor. He does fine. He's like doing his best. Really tacky 80s aesthetics. It feels to me like it wanted to swing towards being like a PG or at most PG-13 kind of like horror movie for kids, but it didn't quite commit to that in such a way that it could be one. Like, it is I'm pretty sure it's R-rated, which is a really weird choice also, because the original Return of the Living Dead is like a particularly like gruesome, violent, scary zombie film, in addition to which Return of the Living Dead has like some of the most gratuitous nudity that you'll ever see in a zombie film. Like, famously, the girl Trash, who's played by Linnea Quigley, one of the all-time great scream queens of horror movies. Linnea Quigley's awesome. She's so cool. She's like somebody who, like, I'm not a big autographs person, but like someday I would consider buying like a Return of the Living Dead poster and like getting Linnea Quigley, and also getting as many people as possible from Return of the Living Dead would be really cool. But like Linnea Quigley would be at like the top of my list of like wanting someone. But anyway, Linnea Quigley famously just has like like this completely unprompted, completely ludicrous like nude striptease dance scene where she's like wearing, her character is supposed to be all nude, but because of issues with censors and like weird production miscommunications and whatever, they like, my general understanding of the story was that she like, they did the scene with her all nude and they were like, we can't show her pubic hair on screen, we can't use this, and there was some kind of miscommunication about that, so she like shaved off her pubic hair and they reshot the scene with her completely shaved, and they went back and like after shooting it, it was like, are you guys insane? This is worse. Why would you have interpreted what we talked about as being that she should shave her pubic hair? That is ludicrous. Why did you waste even more film on this? So they went back again. This is like my vague recollection of like third-party descriptions, but my understanding, they went back a third time and it's like, okay, we already have like footage of her like taking her shorts off, and like we have to use that shot, and we have to like there's only so much that we can go back and reshoot, so like we need to do this one more time. And the like solution that they use that doesn't make any sense is that they gave her basically a skin colored prosthetic that covers her lower area, like covers her between her legs, that has been painted and like made up to match her skin. So she's like in the final film, she's like a Barbie. Like she like she's wearing nothing at all. She's completely nude doing this dance on this mausoleum, or she's like on top of like an above ground grave doing this dance, and she's very clearly not wearing anything, but you neither see pubic hair nor like graphic anatomical detail. There's just her skin just continues, and again, she's like a Barbie. Her chest is bare, of course, but like it's just like a completely absurd thing. And the character basically stays nude the entire rest of the film. And this is like what I'm like, all of this was like a gross like tangent to be like, Return of the Living Dead is a very R-rated film. There's also a naked like rotten zombie later in the movie who's like missing the lower half of her body. She has like a little spine hanging out the bottom of her rib cage, but she's like a nasty, really, really well made puppet of a rotted naked lady. And yeah, it's weird they made Return of the Living Dead 2 into a it feels like they're trying to pursue making it a horror movie for kids, without all the way going that way. Return of the Living Dead 3 is quite strange. Return of the Living Dead 3 does this thing where it becomes this kind of, not Romeo and Juliet exactly, but it's this like punk couple, and the girl becomes a zombie, and they're trying to figure out, she's still like cognizant enough that they're trying to figure out how to like manage her being a zombie. It's like way predating like iZombie and Warm Bodies. Like there's like a bunch of stuff in the 2000s that like pulls a similar-ish story. Fido, I guess, is kind of in that territory. Fido's not on here as well. Fido's awesome. Fido's a good movie. Fido was not on this list, I mean to say. Yeah, so Return of the Living Dead 3, I would say, is probably just actually good. And it's weird and better than it needs to be. You don't need to watch Return of the Living Dead 2, but I would encourage it, and then going into Return of the Living Dead 3 is fine. The 4th and 5th Return of the Living Deads were shot simultaneously. I think they were either made for Sci-Fi Channel, or I think it was like they were maybe simultaneously made to be for Sci-Fi Channel, plus it was like unrated DVDs and then like an R-rated cut for Sci-Fi Channel or something to that effect. I apologize if I'm misremembering the details. 4 is called Necropolis. 5 is called Rave to the Grave. Necropolis I would probably put pretty deep into actually bad, maybe even into please don't. Necropolis is like just very, very boring. Rave to the Grave, I would say, is in maybe worth seeing. Rave to the Grave it's just a very silly zombie movie. If the title doesn't immediately communicate to you, it decided to be rave themed, like electronic music dance party rave. And the idea is that there's like a diluted version of the zombie gas trihexane that makes people zombies, that becomes like a party drug, and obviously this leads to a zombie outbreak at a rave, blah blah blah. Very silly film. I probably wouldn't put it in maybe worth seeing. I'd put it on the high end of probably not. It's maybe in a similar tenor as Jack Frost, where it's like here's a very silly zombie movie, and there's better silly zombie movies that are more worth your time, but it's not the worst of all possible situations. So, all that's to say, those are the Return of the Living Deads. They're not in the R line, which I'm very sad about. Next time, we will continue with the R line. I'll probably be able to continue with that on Wednesday. I don't think I'll be able to do it Tuesday or tonight or Tuesday, but we'll continue with that. And we've got some bangers ahead we got to talk about. Reanimator's amazing. Wreck is great. Resident Evil films I've got a lot to say about, obviously. Rosemary's Baby, a classic. The Ruins I kind of like. The S line is pretty loaded also, because we've got all the Saw films, Scanners, a classic, the Scream films, Seven, not a horror movie, but whatever, Shining, a banger, Silence of the Lambs, a banger, Silent Hill, I like. We've got quite a few things. The S line is really long too, actually, so wow. S is going to take us a minute. So I am going to pause our music from Hoxon. And I'm going to boot up Resident Evil. And I'm going to run to the restroom real quick before we get Resident Evil started, everybody. Before we get that started, I'm just going to run to the restroom real quick. I'm going to take another sip of drink. And then, we're going to keep going with Resident Evil 4, Chapter 4. So we will we'll see y'all in a minute. Let me just OBS, screen capture, change that over to RE4. Let me make sure we get Let me make sure that's showing up on stream. Has it caught up? At some point, I need to automate this stuff. I need to teach myself more about. Okay, there we go. Okay, I see it on stream. Okie dokie. Okay, I'll be right back, everybody. See you all in a minute. You're going to hang out with the Resident Evil 4 menu screen so you get a little bit of ambient sound. So, see y'all shortly. All right, everybody, I'm back. We continue into chapter 4.
Sacrificial lamb, you will receive our most sacred body. It begins now. When day breaks, you too will join our covenant to share in my holy blessing forever.
Condor 1 to Roost. Do you read me?
Condor 1? You've been radio silent for 3 hours. Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. Won't let it happen again.
And the church?
I'm still looking for whatever key I need.
Copy that. I'm glad you're okay. Roost out.
So, first up, I wanted to apologize a little bit for, okay, so we do have a few things we got to catch up on across the lake. So I wanted to apologize. I talked a lot over the Del Lago boss fight. Frankly, that fight's just not that interesting. It's like cool, but it's like I hope it didn't bother people that like you didn't get the like ambiance or something of like chasing a fish or being pulled by a fish. So I will also say, I think one of the absolute coolest things that is in the remake period is I love the remix on this section. So in the original game, we don't have, like, you have a little bit of freedom to explore the lake, but not very much. The idea that it becomes this like pseudo it becomes kind of like a pseudo free roam section where you can kind of like take a few different things in different order is, I think, extremely cool and extremely ambitious that they did this. I will say also, it is once again kind of a sunny day, and things are a little bit hard to see. So depending on how this goes, there might be a circumstance where I need to like only be playing this game at night, because it's in the darker areas. I'm getting so little capacity to see what's happening. We see a hat. This is the decapitated police head hat from the cop who got dumped in the lake Lago. And we see an altar or a shrine of some kind to a figure we still don't know. So like this area over here, for the sake of it, I can't tell at all if there's supposed to be any interact points. I can tell there's a door here. But yeah, like, okay, the light helps for sure, but we'll see how this goes. If it's a real problem, we might need to take a pause and just do this. Like, I might need to set a rule that I only play this game in the evenings, and like I just play something else when I can stream during the day. Let's see. I'm trying to listen for... I hear somebody. There's no... Pardon me. There's no treasure in this section, it doesn't look like. But that doesn't mean that there's no items. I hear... Sorry if you hear car horns honking, by the way. They've been pretty loud today. Chanting. I think they're straight ahead, but I can't quite tell. Okay. Let's double back around. Am I on the right path? Yes. Ow. Ow. There we go. I was hoping I could take it out without getting hit. All right. Almost impossible to see what was going on there because of how bright my room is.
What the fuck?
Sorry, everybody. Yeah, so the true horror of Resident Evil 4 revealed. We've got some John Carpenter Thing-style parasites that are ready to burst out of people's heads. We already got, like, a little indication of that, of course, by way of the, you know, when you break their neck, you see little tendrils sticking out. Yeah, we are the host to parasites, which are, they are host to parasites, which, yeah, can burst forth as such. Which is, very bad. Very bad for me. They have kind of a bone blade tendril, which can whip at me. And I think this is a really brilliant gameplay thing. I mean, this obviously goes back to the first Resident Evil 4, the original, not that the remake came up with this, but it creates this interesting tension where, like, headshots do, in fact, like, do the most damage, right? Like, headshots are still crits, as it were, but when you shoot people in the head, it creates the possibility. So we've got to figure with the head and the head. So if you offer a head to the open hands of a figure whose head is the many arms, the symbol of the Plaga that we've seen.
Same mark from the church.
Yep. We got to find something to put in these hands. But the idea that if you blow someone's head off, you might actually put yourself in a worse situation.
It's the lake.
So we now know the location of the two heads are probably here and here. Based on one head, two head. The idea that you might end up putting yourself in a worse situation by blowing someone's head off and then they suddenly like sprout a parasite, I think is like such a cool, fascinating, like, remix on gameplay standards that, like, you are potentially endangering yourself. Old way shrine key. Excellent. We want that. The idea that you are potentially endangering yourself is, I think, really interesting and really cool. And there's a question of, like, will doing body shots put you better off than shooting people in the head? But, like, blowing a head off is the way to kill someone. We want to sell a gold chicken egg for 3 more spinels. So we have another quest. This is like a really cool gameplay notion, and I really, really like. I think it, like, brings a certain tension to this game that I don't want to say doesn't exist in other REs, but, like, I think that 5 didn't successfully cultivate the same fear of the headbursters. Trying to figure out how do we get on this boat again. There it is. That I think is what do we have here? Alexandrite, cool. Cool. And is that it? Is that it that's on the boat? No, there's something else, isn't there? Yeah. I wish I could manually get my flashlight on and off. Oh, there's the red 9. I had forgotten that the red 9 was out here. Of course, the car alarm is deciding to go off right now. Does that work? Yes, perfect. Okay. Red 9 is great to find because this is the pistol that I want to use for the majority of the game. We are going to be, in fact, all of the game probably. Is that it for the boat? That's it for the boat. And now we want to head... I think we want to head straight east, because I think that's where we get the chicken egg. How do I go east? I think it's just this way. I don't have an on-screen map. Bonk. North now. Come on. There's the dock. Yep, chickens. Egg. Brown chicken egg. Ow. Gold chicken egg. Nice.
I'll be taking this.
I don't remember. Is there anything else I can pick up here? It says that there's a treasure. Oh, velvet blue. Perfect. Was there something else? Some other egg. Excellent. So, speaking of Resident Evil 5, there's been this question for a while now, like what is going to happen after Requiem? Like what can we expect? Or what should we expect Capcom to do after Requiem? Other people... There's been this perpetual thing where it's like, I think what people want versus what is actually likely for us to receive is, I think people really let their desires shape their... Since we're over here, I might as well do it. I think people really let their desires shape their opinion on what is likely. And I'm of the opinion that, let's see. Let's get a vantage point. Because once we're up here... Come on. I've shot you a lot. And what I'm going to try to do is not reload, so that I don't waste any ammo that won't be in the red 9. But anyway, I think people have a tendency to let their opinions of what they want from Capcom to strongly inform, like, they don't think about what is likely, and instead they think about what they want. And I think... Yep, mechanical cadence means that there is a... There's a bobblehead around. There you are. Um, so yeah, with the notion that people are allowing themselves to be kind of biased towards what they want, people often say like, "Oh yeah, I want a Code Veronica remake." People say, "I want um, an Outbreak remake, but like in this gameplay style." Um, and I, for one, don't think that those are particularly likely. Um, I might be wrong, but you know, that's personally what I'm thinking. Forget, does this open with this key? It does. Nice. Um, and it's not that I don't want them to. Like, I do want, like, I would love a Code Veronica remake. But I don't think it's super likely that we're ever going to get one. Could someone catch the gigantic fish that lives in the lake for me? Fish oil has many uses after all. This photo should help you find it. So it's near the barn type thing. Is this the right way? Am I? Oh wait, there's something above. Turn around. I should have heard the metal squeak. Yeah. There's something about seeing the boat section in this game that feels like I'm almost certain that the boat section in this game is indicative of them piloting I need to make room. Let's craft more shotgun shells. And what's up here? Oh yeah, this is the ritual site from the intro of the game. I feel like the boat section of this is indicative of them piloting. Okay, how could we... one second, let me... No, I didn't mean to do that. I mean to use... And then... Go here. And... I guess I could make handgun ammo. I feel like I should make rifle ammo. I don't really have much. Small key. That's excellent. I need that. Forest altar. There's an herb. Where's the herb? Was it over here? No, it's not. It's... Sorry, again, the game is like unbelievably dark on my screen. Like, I'm sure it's not that much brighter on YouTube because YouTube doesn't do great with... YouTube doesn't do great with super dark sections, but like on my screen, I'm really, really struggling. But yeah, I'm inclined to think ladder is behind the... I'm inclined to think that the oh yeah, there's a person.
The hell is going on here?
One of the ritual sacrifices. Bloodlet. And I can't aim at her. I mean, not that I want to, but I mean... Nope. Doggy. They got Plagas too.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Really struggling to see Doggy. Oh, dang it, I reloaded. Go back through the door, please. I auto-reloaded. I didn't manually hit the R button. Come and get me. Come to the door, guys. Come on in. After these next 4 shots, I'm gonna... Ow! Rude. Switch. That's probably a waste of a shotgun shell, especially because I just blew off his head. Now he's a Plaga. Let's see, actually, can I... rifle him? Okay, and what I'm going to do real quick is I am going to... register to shortcut 1. You, I'm going to send to storage real quick. That way I can't waste more ammo accidentally. I hear the dog. I don't see it. My screen is so dark, y'all. I see the dog, kind of. I think that's dead. Cabin, 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 cabin. Let me in the cabin. Don't let the dog get to me first. Ah. Can't get in here, can you, dog? Drawer. Use the small key. But yeah, I don't necessarily know if I want a 5 remake. I don't necessarily hate the idea of a 5 remake either, but I'm inclined to... there's some part of me that thinks that the build-out of the mechanics... Am I going to burst through the window or something? I hope not. That's very Resident Evil 1, huh? Is there a guy in here is the other question. I don't think so, but we'll be careful. Am I hearing the squeaky squeaky? Where is treasure? Old man's journal. 3 years ago, my beloved daughter passed away shortly after giving birth to a son. Since then, the boy has grown considerably. He is a very curious child and has a true thirst for knowledge. He even tries to follow after me when I go out hunting. I can't take my eyes off him for a second. Whenever we walk in the forest, he always asks me to tell stories. He's very fond of Don Quixote. Although he's still small, the boy is smart and observant beyond his years. If he weren't stuck here, he might have become a scholar. I was a careless fool. I could have sworn I shot clean through the wolf's head, and yet it lunged at me. I was able to make it back to the cabin, but my wound is swollen and discolored. I cannot bear seeing the boy's worried eyes. My body moves on its own. I can hear voices in my head. Am I going mad? I can't go die now and leave the boy behind. Dear God, please protect him. Very sad. And a red gemstone ring. And we early spoiler, we are to understand that the boy from this house and the boy discussed in that journal are supposed to be Louise Sarah. So I want to hang a hard right U-turn. Hard right U-turn when we go out of the thing. There were dogs, and now there's alarms outside my apartment. Sorry if y'all can hear those. 1 second. We'll pause for a moment and let me Okay, they're mostly gone. So yeah, the photo. It's supposed to be little Luis, presumably. I guess that could be an older family photo. That's not literally Luis, but this is supposed to be his house. Of course, now a car is beeping. If ever I'm in a situation where I think to myself, I really need ambulances and I really need car horns, I just need to start streaming, because immediately that stuff. Ow. Can't see the dog at all.
Next.
Okay. Of course. Honk, 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 honk. And let me just use one of these snakes, because he takes up a lot of room in the inventory. I hear another dog. For the time being, I'm going to run. I want to get to the shrine. And then spin around and we fight the dog. Shrine. Pearl. I hear a dog. My screen is pretty much completely black, illegible to me right now. I hear another dog. Okay, back to the boat we go. Okay, now where do we go is the question. So I think I want to go to the merchant. This isn't a merchant, I don't think. It's stone pedestal. Oh, wait. Yeah. Boathouse. Boathouse is, I think, where we will find the big fish. Real quick, I want to go to a merchant, and it is just so dark on screen. I hate to say it, but I think I might. That's over here. That's that path. This is nothing. Thought that was the. Let's see what this is. I think this is the bottom of the... Maybe? Maybe I'm wrong. Oh, wait, no, this is the... This is where we have this puzzle. Do we have the final piece? No. Okay, so we need one more hexagon, and then we can do that puzzle. So this is where we started our lake journey. And now we're going to go to find the merchant. I might cut this a little short, as said, just to like, it's just so hard for me to see what's happening on screen. No, let me turn around. There's a barrel I want to hit. Like Donkey Kong. There we go. I guess we're going backwards. Can we get... Come on. The boat controls aren't great, everybody. Come on. Come on. Oh, there we go. We're back to the merchant. I can offload a bunch of stuff. can upgrade the red 9 as a start.
I've got some welcome. I've got something new for you.
We also now have a rocket launcher, which is great for,
bang for your
oh, we
buck.
can upgrade our case
A
also.
decent size, but size ain't everything, am I right?
Attachable mines, bolts,
All
and
my
flash
wares are
grenade
in
recipes
tip-top
all
shape,
exist.
I assure you.
Let's repair the knife real
Give that
quick.
the care it deserves,
We
mate.
will sell pearl bangle, gold ring, gold
Ruby's all
bar,
rubbish, it makes no
velvet blue.
difference. The price, well, that's art. Thank you.
Golden chicken egg.
Perfect. You're a real
We get
professional.
3 spin-offs for
Anything
that.
else I can help you with?
And yeah, we can upgrade our red 9 now. So we can already see that
A well-tuned
the
weapon
power is
can make
1.5
up for
rather
a
than 1. That's kind of like
lack
the
of
big
skill,
differentiation. It shoots slower, and we need to get a stock to make it more accurate. But
This kind of work is about finesse. Straight.
let's also make its capacity
Little
higher.
bit goes a long
Let's
way.
get everything up to level 2.
You'll see.
We might even get reload speed all the way up, just because
See how
it
that
now will
feels?
reload as fast as the
Fella
original.
like yourself should notice the difference right away.
Okay, we can also buy an elegant mask.
Oh, my
We
back
can get
is
a black
killing
attaché
me.
case, which increases the
Years
drops.
haven't been kind
And we have
to
another
us.
ambulance coming by. We can get a red barrel. High-powered scope. I don't think we want, for now, TMP stock we don't need. Yeah, for the time being, I think
What can I
we're...
do you for?
I think we're good. There's nothing else I need to sell, right?
I'll buy almost anything.
Tune up. Buy.
Pleasant
Okay.
travels.
I think we're good. I am going to off-screen rearrange my attaché case because it's a little sloppy right now. And as said, I hate to stop this so early. Like, I wanted to do complete chapter per episode. It's just like, yeah, I think I need to just, at least while we're in like the nighttime section of the game, I need to be playing this at night. It's just too bright in my room. Like my monitor's at max brightness, and I don't have curtains. I can't like cover up my windows, so I'm just dealing with super bright sun filtering in here, and it's like this kind of room is fine, but those night sections, like especially that area with the dogs, I was like basically shooting blindly. So I would rather not keep playing under these conditions. So we are just going to save for the time being. Sorry to kind of shortchange the episode, but we will, you know, hopefully, if not tonight, maybe Wednesday night. If not tonight, maybe Wednesday night, we'll finish this chapter completely, and then do all of chapter 5. Like we'll try to do the entirety of a chapter all at once, to keep things so that when we get to episode 6, we'll just be all of chapter 6 again. So sorry again, everybody, that this played out this way, but we'll get back on it soon. So thank you for watching. Yeah, we'll see y'all later. Take care, everyone.